What's up, guys? Tim Little, Matt Allen. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin, and welcome back to another episode of this year's 2024 Holiday Buyer's Guide series. Today's video, we're talking everything bait finesse.
Bait finesse has become one of Tim and I's favorite ways to fish over the last few years. Everything in this video is geared towards it. However, there are no bait finesse rods or reels in this video because we just wrapped up all those rod and reel combo videos, the reel videos, so we left that out. So really, this is a finesse baits video. Any of this could be done on bait finesse or on spinning rod standard finesse gear. We're talking soft baits, then hard baits, then we'll get into line a little bit, some of those really technique specific things. You want to kick us off?
Sure. Downsized baits kind of is the name of the game the last couple years for sure. Whether it's downsizing your swim baits or downsizing your top waters, everything in between, it just kind of is what it is, and it's so much fun. So to kick it off, I guess I'll do, let's do some swim baits. How many of you guys like to throw like your 2.5 to 3 inch swim baits on like a little guppy head, right? In years past, we've always thrown them on spinning rods.
Yeah.
But now with the evolution of bait finesse, at least in the US market, we have rods and reels available where we can spool up with our favorite line and we can send these little guys, basically spool it and just cast a long ways and then have that same muscle memory with a bait caster. So I love throwing a little swim bait paired up with, we'll talk about heads in just a second, but number one swim bait for us is that 2.75 Swammer by X Zone. A real nice tail kick, real good body roll. Kitech 2.8 works great too. It just has a little bit different kick and the fish haven't seen it and it really stands out. So pair that up with your favorite guppy head or underspin. That is an awesome little swim bait. And then also this guy right here. This is a new one from Z-Man a couple years ago. Those of you guys that have gobies or sculpin in your fishery, this little guy, that's the TRD gobies. Again, that is a cool little swim bait. It is a Laztec, but that's more of your fishing on bottom, dragging, kind of hopping type swim bait. Cool little paddle tail. But both of those, we like to pair up. More of the swim bait, I guess, the X Zone, going to be either on the Dirty Jigs guppy head, or if we want to add a little bit of flash, we're going to throw it on the Tactical Mini Underspin. Both by Dirty Jigs. We helped design this guy right there. A little bit longer dropper arm to clear some of the bellies of our favorite swim baits. But those are awesome little ways to rig your swim bait. And then we'll talk about some heads in a little bit.
Yep.
But that little TRD gobies is a cool little swim bait as well.
All right, let's jump over and let's talk about like the craw creature category. That originally started with Ned baits, and that category is alive and well, but the bait finesse applications are endless. So I've got 4 baits here for you. First one from X Zone. They launched that Stealth series earlier this year that is completely dedicated to those little bait finesse profiles. That's the Stealth Craw, and then here we have the Stealth Creature. 2 completely different profiles. And actually, I've got them sitting out here. Here's a craw on a Ned rig, and here's the Creature on a Ned head as well. Just awesome, full profile, incredible detail, great movement in that tiny little downsized package. Next one up from Rains, we've got the 2.5 Ring Craw, which if you have followed along the last few years has proven itself over and over again. It is such a fish catching little bait, both on a Ned head and on a micro Texas rig. And then last but not least, we've got the Z-Man TRD Bugs. The Bugs is like a tiny little beaver profile. So a true dead action, all profile little flippin' bait, but in a tiny little package. Again, the idea here is that we're taking these proven concepts, right? Throwing a creature bait like a brush hog, throwing a beaver style bait, throwing a craw profile, and we're downsizing that into these little tiny profiles that are continuing to catch fish when other things stop working. Now, all of these baits, there's basically 3 different ways that we're rigging. Well, 4, and I didn't even lay a Texas rig out here because the weight is so small on a 16th ounce Texas rig tungsten. What's the point? So we've got 2 Ned heads. We've got one with an exposed hook, your traditional Ned head, and then we've got the EWG style, which are both so effective with any of these baits. And then the last one, this is from Great Lakes Finesse, and this is their matte Finesse jig. This jig stands out because it is I'm gonna call it like the Ultra Finesse mop jig, right? It's a big skirt for its size, but everything is micro. Super thin material, and then it's got a light wire hook down inside there. And that pairs up beautifully. So you can use these baits as standalone baits. You can also use them on the back of a tiny little jig. And all of those methods work incredibly well.
Talking about downsizing techniques, how many of you guys like to throw a wacky worm or a Senko, right? A wacky rig Senko. One bait that we really like to throw is the thin Senko. Again, downsizing your profile. A thin Senko, it's quite a bit thinner than your traditional 5-inch Senko, has a ton of action, but wacky rigging this on light line, just a ton of movement. Again, pairing this up with our favorite Bait Finesse reels and rods, it's a great way to take your wacky rig game, downsize it a little bit, and give these fish something they haven't seen.
All right, one more. Yeah, we've got one more here from Jackal. This is the Rhythm Wag. And what this is same thing. This is all about downsizing existing profiles, right? We all love throwing a soft jerk bait, a fluke, if you will. The Rhythm Wag, I'm going to turn the package around. They're easy to see there on the backside. That is a tiny little soft jerk bait. We put that on a little 1/0 wide gap hook. This is one of the most fun things that you can do with a Bait Finesse rod. It's one of the standouts. All of these things are incredibly effective, but that is one of the baits where when I get on that bite, I'm like, I could do this every day of my life. It is just so much fun to be quick twitch in that little soft jerk bait in and around cover, and those fish come out and club that thing. And I've found that you can use it in conjunction with a full-size bait. Like, you throw a fluke or a whiplash shad, and when the bite stops, you pull out the Rhythm Wag and you catch a few more. It's really a fun way to go.
All right, now let's transition over to some hard baits. We're gonna kick it off with the Mega Bass Karashi. Now, if you have been living under a rock the last year, you probably haven't heard about this bait, but this thing is probably one of the hottest hard baits in the entire fishing industry. Yep. This is a, like I said, Mega Bass Karashi. It is a hard twitch bait, just under the surface. It's a slow sink. Get that thing just dancing all over the place. These fish just come unglued. It's really cool to watch these fish come and just get all up on this bait. You get all twitchy with it and they just smoke it. So much fun. Again, with the Mega Bass products, you get awesome colors, awesome terminal tackle, but that is a really unique bait that really shines in that Bait Finesse category. It's not really a bait. You can throw it on a spinning rod, but it's so much better on that bait caster, being able to make little roll casts up around laydowns or docks or what have you, but being able to twitch, work this thing extremely fast, and that thing is just darting all over the place, a lot like this weedless guy right here. So much fun. That Karashi is special.
All right, let's jump over. Let's talk crankbaits. We've got 4 baits in that category. Just like crankbaiting, you've got shallow baits, deep baits, lipless baits, right? All of that stuff now exists in those downsized profiles. There are 4 here that really stand out. We've got 2 shallower baits, 2 deeper baits. From Mega Bass, we've got their little Griffins. We've got the SR, the shallow runner, and we've got the MR. These are specifically built for Bait Finesse fishing. When these baits came out, they have a very unique sound. It's a high-pitched, sort of tinny, glassy sound. The first time I heard them, I thought the fish are either going to smash those or hate it. It's going to be one or the other because they're so different from everything else. It did not take me long to figure out that they were going to smash them. I absolutely crush with these baits. And we're not talking about creek fishing somewhere, right? Now, they work really well for that too. But I'm talking out on the TVA, where everybody else is throwing giant baits, and we're back there taking that little MR and cranking that thing and just blasting fish on the days when other people are struggling. Two more. We've got Deep Diver from Demiki. We've got the Disco 38, which is an awesome little bait. Again, it's all about that downsized profile. That one is completely silent, but has a great tight vibration to it. And then another silent bait here, we've got from Shimano, we have the 39F, also called the Tiny. I have blasted them on that bait, just lit them up. Again, it's just a true square bill in a tiny little package, and they come unglued for it.
Yeah, that tiny little package doesn't mean tiny little fish either. You'll catch some big fish on these downsized profiles.
Yep.
All right, next up, let's talk topwaters. We got two walking baits and then two poppers. So first up, we got this guy right here. This is the Cultiva Zip and Ziggy. Again, we're talking downsized profile. So if you're a guy that likes to throw a walking bait, whether it's a spook or a vixen or a shower blows, whatever it may be, we all find ourselves in that situation where there's bait fish that are about that big, right? So that Zip and Ziggy is an awesome little topwater side-to-side bait. Good sound to it. The most important thing about this bait is it's been back ordered or out of stock for a long time.
Over a year.
They are they're finally back in stock. Next up, we got this guy right here. This is a little topwater by Megabass. You guys are familiar with the Dog X line. This is the Dog X Junior Koyu. Okay, real small. Again, with that Megabass, all their hard baits, you get the really natural, really good looking colors, but again, nice little sound to it. This is like a little kind of a little tight walking topwater bait. Kind of has that little hop to it when you hit it hard enough. But again, downsized topwater, super fun to fish, and big fish eat them, right? So much fun. Sticking with the little topwaters, let's talk about two little poppers. We'll go this guy right here. This is the Megabass. That's a Pop X Junior. Okay, you have the Pop X, you have the Pop Max, different sizes. That's their little guy, little popper. Still sticking with that Megabass. You get the good colors, good terminal tackle, but just throwing a little popper on those little subtle days. That thing is so much fun. Again, you get crappie and bluegill and white. You get everything eats these little guys right here. And then last but not least, this is the smallest little topwater we have in this lineup. That's the Demiki Oompa. Tiny little popper. So if you're a guy that's creek fishing or backwater fishing and you got little tiny bait, throwing that little popper, again, with the bait finesse, a proper bait finesse setup with a reel and the right rod, you can still throw this thing a long ways and then just bloop, bloop. It's so much fun. You never know what's going to eat it because now you've opened kind of the, anything can fit that in its mouth, whether it's a bluegill, like I said, a little white or yellow bass, or a big 5 or 6 pound largemouth. They eat them.
All right, we've got one for you that is sort of an outlier. It's all by itself. From Duo Realis, there's the spin bait series. They're spy baits. This is the little spin bait 70. This came out this year. So it's a downsized spy bait. I have never, well, I can't say that. I've had a lot of fun on the water. But one of those days that I'll never forget was throwing this bait on a bait finesse rod. You could dump the entire spool because they're so aerodynamic. They fly so well.
A little bullet.
Chasing big smallmouth, and they would hit it so hard. You load up that bait finesse rod, it folds completely in half, and you're just bulldogging against these big, giant smallmouth. Such a fun way to fish. We were throwing spy baits on bait finesse already, even in the 80 size, but you'd have some trouble because it weighs so much. They'd come up and they could throw it, but the 70, as it turns out, is that perfect crossover where you can fish this on traditional gear, but it fishes so well on a little bait finesse setup as well.
Another little outlier, it is in that Topwater series. You guys are very familiar with the Whopper Plopper. This is the little Whopper Plopper 60. Just a super easy, super fun bait to throw, chuck and wind. It's as easy as that. But having that downsized little propeller, it's just that little spits, a completely different sound than your 90, your 110, your 130 size Whopper Plopper. But again, being able to throw this with a bait caster on Bait Finesse, like Matt said, dumping that spool. Big ones eat this too. Just having that little different sound, same great profile and action of all the other Whopper Ploppers in the family, in the size, but that little guy right there is fun to throw on the Bait Finesse setup.
All right, we're going to jump over to jerk baits here. And these, again, these are specifically those tiny profiled jerk baits. We've got 5 baits, but I want you to think of them as a family. We've got the shallowest and most erratic first. Then we've got 2 shallow baits and 2 deep baits. It's that simple. You don't need all 5 of them. Think about where you fish, how you fish, and choose accordingly. The shallowest, most erratic from Daiwa, this is their TD Minnow SP, so suspending, and this is the little guy. And again, we'll link all of this gear in the video description for you. All the hard baits are still on sale right now. You can take advantage of that. So in the description, the links will go straight to Tackle Warehouse. We'll give you our favorite colors for each one as well. But this little TD Minnow is so darty. It's incredible how well it can walk from side to side. It's not just twitching, it's a full-blown underwater walk. It's a remarkable little bait, and it's got a great weight transfer system in it. So even though it's tiny, you can cast it a mile as well. Now, let's talk 2 more shallow baits. From Megabass, we've got the X80 Junior, which is a phenomenal bait. So tiny little downsized profile, but it's actually quite tall and quite thick for its size. And as a result, it's a fairly large profile in this category. And it fishes so well. That's one of those baits where I get a lot of those 2 to 4 pound bites on that bait. Just good quality fish when they don't want to eat other things. Then the other one is from Duo Realis, the Rosante, the 63 SP. So sort of a 1-2 punch here. We're very similar in terms of dive depth and overall size, but the Rosantes have a great roll and they throw a ton of light. They flash. So in the fall, when they're running bait, I've done extremely well with that, catching their attention. Where bass are actually chasing shad and small bait fish, that bait does a great job of catching their attention, drawing them off, and getting them to strike. And then same thing, but deeper divers. Again, from Duo Realis, we've got that Rosante, but it's the 57, so even smaller, and it's the MR, the medium runner. That little deep diver is a fun bait. When those fish shut down, they're lethargic. I slow it down, twitch it softer, let it pause longer. They eat that thing so well. And then last but not least is a newer bait from Megabass, at least in the US market, and that is the Shading X. This is the smallest, it's the little 55. Super flashy, very erratic dart, but it's deeper. It's got that bigger bill on it. So getting that super aggressive dart at a deeper depth. Again, it's a family of baits. We're not talking about which one is the best because they're all completely different. But if one of those descriptions jives with your fishing style or the depth where your fish are, you know which one to try.
Want to do line real quick? That's
sure.
really important.
Let's wrap it up there with the line. When it comes to line, particularly on Bait Finesse, it's critical.
Right.
The difference between getting it and having the time of your life with Bait Finesse and just is line. We found a couple of lines that have really helped us dial it in. For straight fluorocarbon, from Daiwa, this is their J Fluoro Samurai, the Hidden. It's a green line. A friend of ours turned us on to this. He was jerkbait fishing with it. We gave it a try, and what I discovered was how long it lasts on the spool compared to other fluoros. I'm spooling up half as often, maybe even less than that. It's a remarkable line, and the sweet spot for us has been 7 pounds. 7 pound is thin enough that you can do everything you need to do, get tons of distance, but it's strong enough that you have no break off issues at all. Super confident about landing the fish that bite. I mean, this is a 1,000-yard spool. That tells you how much I like this line. In 7 pound, I fish a ton of it. And then on the braided end, we have been trying everything under the sun, right? We're constantly trying all the new lines. And from Seagar, there's this PEX8. This line arrived just after ICAST, right around ICAST. And I overnighted a spool for that. Like, it landed at Tackle Warehouse. I bought one, overnighted it, and by the time I went back for more, they were gone. But they're back in stock again. And this is such an interesting braid because it's unbelievably thin for its strength. So this is 18 pound, which when I say to put 18 pound on a bait finesse reel, that sounds wrong, like very, very wrong. But this is thinner. We're going off diameter. Tim just did a video about understanding line diameters. Going off diameter, actual line to line, this is as thin or thinner than most 6 pound braids. So if you've been using some other braid that's a 6 or an 8 pound on your bait finesse gear, this is as thin or thinner despite being an 18 pound line. You don't want to go any thinner than that because it's just
micro.
It's just hair at that point. But this is an incredible line that you can make unbelievably long casts with. It's high vis. It's a really bright, bold color, which is really helpful when you get to lines that thin to be able to see what you're doing as well. But both of those lines have made a big difference in our bait finesse fishing.
Yeah, hopefully you guys, whether you're a finesse fisherman typically throwing your swim baits or your wacky rigs on a spinning rod, hopefully you guys have played around or dabbled in the whole BFS or bait finesse game, because it is exploding by the number of categories, right? Soft baits, Ned rigs, hard baits, topwaters. There's just more and more baits getting added to this whole system, and it is so much fun. It just takes can't say enough. It is so much fun. It really is. It makes fishing more fun catching them on that bait finesse stuff. But
it does.
But throwing underspins or swim baits, topwaters, you name it, bait finesse fishing gets bit. It's fun, and those baits get bit when other true to size baits just aren't working. So we'll link all the stuff down below in the video description in order like Matt talked about, but hopefully this gives you guys some confidence when picking which type or style of bait for your type of fishing. Yep. But it is so much fun. It works great. We'll link all this stuff down below in the video description. And
one other thing for you, Black Friday is tomorrow. If you have been living under a rock, Tackle Warehouse has been doing a Black November. The sale is 3/4 of the way through already, right. Maybe further than that. It has been rocking and rolling if you've been missing it, but it is continuing to roll right on through Black Friday, through the end of the month. But we are doing another video tomorrow. We're nearing the end of the buyer's guides. We've got a couple left for you. Tomorrow morning, bright and early, we'll be talking jerkbaits.
Jerkbaits, yep. Like I said, we'll link all this stuff down below in the video description, our favorite sizes, colors, all that good stuff. We appreciate you. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys tomorrow.